Alright, my peoples. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is. I don't know when y'all watch this. But I'm gonna go through problems for about, I don't know, try to make the video about 15 minutes. We'll see how many we get done. First problem says, in the diagram shown, what is the measure of BAC? So remember our strategies. First question, what is the question looking for me to find? It wants the measure of angle BAC, which is this angle here. So that's what I want to find. Well, what information does it give me? Well, it gives me an expression for this angle, it gives me an expression for this angle, and for this one. So, third question is, what theorems or properties do I know to help me solve the problem? And for this one, the answer to that question is, in a triangle, the exterior angle, so this angle, we'll call this angle 1. The exterior angle is equal to the sum of the two non-adjacent interior angles. So that would be that the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3. So now with this formula, I'm going to use the diagram shown here. Well, that's going to be that the measure of this angle, and we're going to call this angle C. So the measure of angle C is equal to the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B. And then you just make your substitution, right? So C is 8x minus 30. A is 2x plus 2. And B is 4x plus 8. We're going to combine our terms on the right side. 2x plus 4x gives me 6x. 2 plus 8 gives me 10. So now I have 8x minus 30 equals 6x minus 10. I need all my x's on one side. Minus 6x minus 6x. 8x minus 6x is 2x. Minus 30 equals 10. I'm going to finish the equation over here. So I had 2x minus 30 equals 10. I need my x's by themselves, so I need to make this negative 30 into a 0. How do I get 0 from negative 30? Well, negative 30 plus 30 gives me 0. What I do to one side, have to do to the other. So now I have 2x is equal to 40. Divide both sides by 2. X is equal to 20. But our first question that we answered was, what am I looking for? I want the measure of angle BAC. Well, the measure of angle BAC is equal to 2x plus 2. So now we're going to substitute my x equals 20 for x. So I have 2 times 20 plus 2 is 40 plus 2. So the answer is 42 degrees. Second question says, can you draw a triangle with sides that are 13, 5, and 6? So I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to think about that before I tell you the answer. Alright, so the theorem that you need to remember for this one is called the triangle inequality theorem. And it says that the two shortest sides of a triangle must add up to a number bigger than the largest side. So the two shortest sides in this one are 5 and 6. 5 plus 6 is 11. Is 11 greater than 13? No, 11 is less than 13. So the two shortest sides, 5 and 6, when I add them together, are smaller than the largest side, which means no, you cannot make a triangle out of this. I'm trying to put that into perspective. If I have a line that is this long, this line plus this line is not as long as this. Can you imagine trying to make a triangle if I put this in here and this in here? Then these ends would never be able to touch to make that triangle. Number 3 uses the same theorem. It says 4 line segments and their lengths are shown below. 3 of the line segments will be used to form a triangle, which lists all the possible groups of the lengths of the line segments that could be used to form a triangle. So, well, let's look at this first one right here, A. A says 12, 3, and 15. The smallest two sides are 12 and 3. That adds up to 15, which is equal to 15. But the theorem says that the two smaller sides has to be larger than the largest side. So this one, no good. B, 8 and 12 are the smallest. 8 and 12 make 20. That's greater than 15. So B is okay. C, well, C has the 3, 8, 15. 3 plus 8 is 11. That's less than 15. C is no good. And then D has 3, 8, and 15 as well. So that one's no good. So the answer is B. 8, 12, 15. Let's go to the next page. Number 4 says the lengths of the 3 sides of a triangle are 5, 9, and x, all measured in centimeters. What are the possible values of x? Okay. So, we need a situation where the smallest number is going to be added to the second smallest number will be greater than the largest. So if we add 5 plus 9 and we assume that x is the biggest number, then 5 plus 9 needs to be greater than x. So 5 plus 9 is 14. So we know that x needs to be less than 14. If x is anything greater than 14, then it would be larger than 5 and 9 together. That would be no good. Now we also need, if I add x to 5, so let's assume that x is not the largest number, then we need 5 plus x to be greater than 9. Because if x is not the greatest number, then 9 is the greatest number, so then 5 plus x needs to be greater than 9. So now we just need to solve this inequality. Subtract 5 from both sides. X is greater than 9 minus 5 is 4. So my x has to be greater than 4. If x is 3, then 5 plus 3 is 8, and then my two smallest sides are not greater than my largest side. So I have x is less than 9, and x is greater than 4, which can be written like this. Quick way to do this, if you're confused about what I said here, the smallest number of my inequality is going to be 9 minus 5. So 9 minus 5 is 4. Cool. And my larger number is just 9 plus 5. 9 plus 5 is 14. Let's go to the next one. The location of Annie's house, school, and local park form a triangle as shown. What is a possible distance from the local park to Andy's school? So I'm looking for what is a possible distance for this side here. Well, let's just look at our answers. You know, this is a multiple choice exam that you're going to be taking. Let's practice with that. A is 4. If a is 4, then 4 plus 4 is 8, smaller than 12, no good. If this side is 8, then 4 plus 8 would be 12, which is equal to 12. Theorem says it needs to be greater than 12. B is no good. 10, 4 plus 10 is 14. That's greater than 12. So that's good on that front. D, 16. 4 plus 16 is 20. So that seems to be okay. Well, there's two right answers. So what's the issue here? Well, whenever we were doing the 4, the 8, and the 10, that was making 12 the largest side. So all we needed was 4 plus this number to be greater than 12. When we use 16, that makes 16 the largest side. So we need to make sure that 4 plus 12 is smaller than 16, and it turns out that 4 plus 12 is 16, which is not greater than 16, so that's no good. So again, the theorem is that the two smallest sides together are larger than the largest side. Number 6 says, use the triangle below to answer the following questions. It says in triangle ABC, MN is parallel to BC. What is the length of MN? So question is 1. What is the question asking me to find? It wants me to find the length of MN. How far is this from here? What information does it give me? It gives me that. It gives me this. And it gives me that MN is parallel to BC. Well, since MN is parallel to BC, there's a couple of things that we can say here. If these lines are parallel, then my corresponding angles are congruent. So take a second and think about if you know what my corresponding angles are. So if we look at the way we learned about corresponding angles at first, if I have these two parallel lines, then this angle corresponds to this one. This angle corresponds to this one, right? Turns out that all four of these are going to be equal because these are vertical and these are vertical. But in this image, if I look at this right here, just imagine that that's not there and it's just like that. Then that looks a lot like this, right? Two parallel lines, this line cutting through, so B is congruent to this one. For the same reason, these two angles are congruent. If I have two angles in one triangle, triangle ABC, congruent to two triangles in another, triangle AMN, then I can say that triangle ABC is similar to triangle, so I went A, so I need to start with A. B is congruent to M, so M is next. C is congruent to N, so N is next. So now that I know the two triangles are similar, I can set up my proportions. I'm trying to find MN, so I'm going to use that one first. MN. What side corresponds to MN? MN is the second and third letter, so it's BC. Going to be equal to. So I can either use my AN and my AC, or I can use my AM and my AB. Well, I actually know AM and AB, so I'm going to use those. So it was MN over BC, and I'm going to use AM over AB, and AM comes from the same triangle as MN, so it goes on top. And then AB, because AM corresponds to AB. Then we just substitute. So we have MN, what we don't know, we call it X. BC is 14. AM is 3. And AB is 3 plus 7 is 10. Cross multiply. 10 times X is 10X. 14 times 3 is 42. Divide both sides by 10. X is equal to 4.2. I'll stop the video here, and we'll have another one soon.